Good evening, everybody, and thank you for joining us today. We really appreciate you coming out. So important to engage and have dialogue and listen to the facts, because sometimes we don't listen to some of the important messages. And today I think we have several for you and some very positive things that are going to be happening in District 1. I'm Christy Martinez Garcia, your councilwoman. And before we get started, I want to acknowledge the first councilwoman, Ms. Maggie Trejo, the Honorable Ms. Maggie Trejo. Definitely an inspiration to me. And then I see we have County Commissioner Gilbert Flores. Gilbert, thank you so much for being here. I also saw former Councilman Victor Hernandez that just came in. Hi, Victor. Glad you're here with us. And the Honorable Judge Aurora Hernandez, who is with the county, and the judge, obviously. And representing LISD is Lala Chavez. We're going to try very hard to keep this on track, but before we move on, I think it's also important to acknowledge our neighborhood association presidents. And if you're a neighborhood association president currently, will you please stand up? I think we have representatives from the North Lubbock Neighborhood Association, the Mahon Neighborhood Association, and Guadalupe Neighborhood Association. And that's what it takes. Oh, and Overton. And do we have Heart of Lubbock? Yes, Tom. Where are you, Tom? Where's Tom? There he is. Thank y'all all for being here. And then I think we have Roger that also is representing the Congress of Neighborhood Associations. Thank you. Once again, I really appreciate your time. I know how busy everybody is. And I think it's important to see different ages, different neighborhoods. District 1, I believe we have a lot of needs, and it is time for us to fill some of those needs. And this is how we get stuff done, is that we interact with city staff, and we have several city staff members here today. So if you guys will stand up and be acknowledged as well, there's quite a few of them. From libraries to water to solid waste to LPD, fire, code enforcement, city secretary, parks, we've got a little bit of everybody. So please take the time, meet with these folks, and they have a lot of really good information for you. But I just want to let you know, since the day after I got sworn in, I have been at City Hall, usually Monday through Thursday. I've met with most of the department heads and staff members. And I felt that it was very important for them to get to know me and for me to get to know them. And they have been wonderful. I expressed a lot of needs that exist in our neighborhoods. I've attended neighborhood associations because I feel that that's how you're going to get things done, is to engage and really understand what people want. And while for the most part, we work hard to answer and respond to those needs, sometimes we lose a little bit of communication. So events such as this make it that much easier for us to connect. And one of the things that I've expressed is it's time for us to put a face on what is often considered a faceless bureaucracy. And these individuals, not only are they staff members, but they're also citizens. And they experience the same things that you do. So when they do stuff, they do it from their heart because they understand. They want to make sure that we're pleasing all of our citizens. And if you look around, you see Lubbock is changing. It's growing. And we're trying to respond to all that growth. And then it's so great to see young people here today. I see several young people, and that makes me proud because those are the next members of leadership. And from city council to neighborhood associations to what have you, I think it's important that we engage everybody and let them understand that each one of their roles is vital to the growth and success of our community. So thank you once again. We're going to move things along because I like things to happen on time. And I think it's important to first start with something that is an opportunity for District 1 or for some of our schools. And when I was first approached by Tina Gonzalez from the College of Education, she was one of the leaders of the East Lubbock Promise Neighborhood activity or grant that they received. And for me, and she'll tell you that I often voice my concern that North Lubbock was left out of that. So she circled back, and here we are now trying to address that. And so this time it's called the Promise Neighborhood Grant, and she's very committed to making sure that North Lubbock is also part of that. So with that, is it going to be Tina or is it Dr. Mendez? Okay. Is it Mendez or Mendoza? And this is the new dean of the College of Education. He is a Lubbock, he attended school here, and he's one of our success stories, and I'm so glad that he's here to share the information. With that, if you'll come and talk a little bit about your grant.
Thank you so much, Councilwoman Garcia. This is really where the real work is. We're really excited here at the College of Education, along with Tina Gonzalez, my colleague, who's our longstanding budget manager of our research office, putting together a new Promise Neighborhood grant that's very inclusive and it has a larger footprint than the one we had a couple of years ago. The one we're applying for is $30 million over 5 years. That it's supposed to maximize some of the pre-existing the work of the organizations here in Lubbock to really add to the culture of not only as far as District 1, but the districts surrounding as far as North, South, and Central Lubbock overall. And so what we're asking in return is actually something very unusual that universities could do a better job at. Instead of coming out with you with some pre-baked solutions to problems, we're having a conversation with the community to find out first, what are some of the needs you all have? Overall, more mental health counseling, more cradle to career support. And so that's part of the reason I'm here is to encourage you all. We have a survey out that's going to be live until this coming Friday. That's a community needs assessment survey. And so if you do see it floating around Lubbock, around the area, there's a reason why we have that is to solicit input from all of you to find out what's important to you all. And then from there, we can apply, if we don't get this one grant, we can apply for other grants that kind of fill that niche going forward. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us directly. I know a lot of you know Tina. I'm a relatively new kid on the block, although I'm a Texas Tech alum. I'm from Wichita Falls, Texas. And as far as, just love being back here. This is my 4th year here back at Texas Tech and Reckham.
It is a great opportunity for our community, so I hope that you'll take the time. And this evening, if you haven't gone to my Facebook page, please do that, and we will have the survey with a QR code that will give you more information, and you can start completing it as soon as possible. I think, what is the deadline, Dr. Mendez or Tina, for? Oh, it's Friday. So could you please do that immediately, because we need your input. And at this point, one of the things that I think is, when we approach things, I think it's always important to offer solution. We often look at the problem of something, but you gotta have an answer, you gotta have a solution. And that is another part of why dialogue is so important. But we've had a few calls, and I think that this department has worked really hard to make people happy, but also understand some of the situations that we're dealing with. So at this time, I'd like to ask the Director of Solid Waste, Brenda Haney, and she's going to tell you about this another great opportunity for our community. And I do also want to remind you, I don't know if we have HR information here. Do we have HR information? Well, anyways, when you fill or download your My Lubbock app, there are also a lot of job opportunities. So right now, I want to also encourage, if you know anyone that's looking for jobs, we've got some positions that need wonderful people like yourselves to apply. So please take the time to do that as well. With that, Ms. Haney. Thank you.
Somehow I knew with that introduction it was me. Good evening. It's so wonderful to see so many of you here. And many of you do. I've talked to probably a few of you on the phone. We've had some challenges in solid waste with staffing. We are very excited, however, to announce that we have started a CDL apprentice driving school program. So we have worked in partnership with American Truck Driving School and South Plains College, and we will begin training for folks that don't have a CDL and want to come to work for us starting in September. We've got a kickoff meeting with them next week, and we'll get all the details worked out. But this is a great opportunity for somebody who's looking for an opportunity to kind of start fresh in a career or a way to make a difference. I've got some great folks with me today, but one of the most rewarding parts about what we do is you get to see the fruits of your labor at the end of each day, and you know you make a difference in the community. You all know how much of a difference it makes when we're not there every day. So this is a great opportunity to certainly support us and help us out. So we will put you to work as an apprentice. We will pay you as soon as you get started. We will put you into school. That program should last 2 weeks for the training. You will leave their program with a commercial driver's license B, which allows you to drive our trucks and many other over the road. It won't get you a license so that you can drive a semi-tractor trailer truck combo. That's not what we're trying to do here. We don't need those here, but we need our local drivers. So this is a great training opportunity. Once you get that CDLB, we will promote you into a heavy equipment operator 2 position and put you in a garbage truck and put you to work. So we are very, very excited about this. We've had a lot of interest, but we've got sign-up sheets back here. I don't have HR information. The position is not posted, but we're taking down names, phone numbers, and email addresses so that when that position gets posted, we can push an email out to each of you to let you know that it's open and taking applications. So, thank you.
We're moving right along, and it's important for me to recognize that when we talk about making a difference, right now, the Lubbock community or the city of Lubbock really is imbalanced. So we need more representation, and especially from District 1. We have more men, no offense men, but we need women to step up into these leadership roles, so important. We also need Latinos, Hispanics, whatever you prefer to call yourself, but we need representation because representation matters, and those have been some of my concerns. Since I've been in office, one of the things that I've been doing is recruiting. I have actively given cards, actively made sure that we're getting people signed up. I see Dr. Ramirez here. Thank you for signing up. Christina is, several folks that are signing up, and I could go in the room, but it's so important for you to give input from your district, from our district, because when we're not present, things happen that go over our head, and we just don't need that. So I urge you, Courtney, will you raise your hand? Courtney Paz is here today, and she's got applications. Again, on the My Lubbock app, you can also sign up to serve on a board or a commission. And also, it's a very easy website, www.mylubbock.us/city boards. And in fact, the city secretary is here, Miss Becky Garza. Yay for Becky. And I just want to go down because I know we didn't give them a formal introduction. I have a lot of names, but just in case. And that way, again, it's so important that we put a face on a name. So I'm going to start over here. Tell us your name. Curtis Spivey and Robert Jenkins. If you have a family member or friend that missed this opportunity, I felt like it was important for us to make sure that we record this so we can share factual information with the community. And that way we can have responses to questions that they may have. And then we have Colby Van Gundy, who's the Director of Parks and Recreation. Yay for Colby. We have Miss Brooke Witcher, who is Assistant City Manager. And then we have a new person, Kristen, who is the assistant to the city council staff. And then we have Matt Rose. Matt, raise your hand. He's like, I'm afraid to. He's with LP&L, sorry. But they really are trying. And if ever you have an issue where you cannot, or you know a neighbor that can't pay their bill, there's programs. And the best way is just dial 211. 211, simple as that. Well, we also, 311 is if you want to get to the city, but 211 has a lot of resources. Sorry, Jarrett, I know you're the city manager, but I'm involved too. So, and then we have Eric. Eric is the new, what is your, tell me your title. Eric Regino, his wife is a teacher that also has STEM program. And I'm sorry I have to connect your wife, but she's pretty amazing too. But Eric Regino. And then we have some folks from the parks staff. And, I know Ben, remind me your name. I know that. I'm still getting to know everybody's name, but I want you to also get to know their names. So please, if you get a chance, go visit Parks and Rec. They have a lot of opportunities. And then Stuart, let me just tell you, he's been such a trooper. Codes enforcement, they probably get the brunt of the jabs, and I apologize for that. But they really are working hard for our neighborhoods. And, I have called them, and Sir will tell you, I call all the time. But somehow we've got to do better at holding our neighbors accountable, because sometimes it's not their job to fix those problems. We've got to be engaged. And then our awesome fire chief, I didn't say. He is so awesome. And if you haven't met him, he is always at our community events in our neighborhood. And I really appreciate that you do that. Thank you so much. So if you haven't met him, he's got a lot of wonderful accolades, and he will be more, and he's a veteran too, so yay for him. Very proud of him. And then we have our city health department, which Catherine Wells, you probably saw Catherine and I talking often during city press conferences about COVID, but I have such a respect and esteem for that department because they really are committed to making sure that they're responding to the needs, the health needs, that is, of our community. So thank you for that. And we also have some folks from recruiting from the Lubbock Police Department. See, I've been through the Citizens Police Academy twice, and we're going to be having a class soon, so that's coming. So if you're interested, let us know about that if you're interested. Also, we have the City 101, right, Jarrett? City 101, and if you're interested in participating in that, you can go through that, learn all about the city departments. You get to get a lot of on-hands opportunities that I think are so important. Of course, I have to introduce Matt, because Matt is become our right-hand person. And so if you want to schedule a meeting with me or some time to talk, Matt Dotre is the person to do it. So he's right there, and on the Facebook page or post, I made sure to have him. And then we have Keep Lubbock Beautiful, which is part of solid waste. And this is a great department. If you didn't get a sticker, make sure that you get one. But let me tell you, they do some amazing work. And if you ever want to do a cleanup, this is the person that can help us. And Del Rio, what's your last name, Del Rio? Mullen. But Del Rio's the person to talk to. And I know that Alice Lozada has worked many a times with Del Rio, so thank you for that. You've met Brenda, and then we have another gentleman from Solid Waste that is Rick Caballero. Thank you, Rick, for being here. And then behind them is the water department. And if you have not seen, we have a new water report that's out. Make sure that you pick one up. We have great, safe water in Lubbock. And I have to introduce Aubrey Spears. Aubrey, will you stand up? So because of this gentleman, I think that we probably have a water footprint for about 100 years. So thank you for that. Their conservation efforts and your commitment to helping us to commit to only certain days to water your yard really makes a difference. But thank you, Jesus, for the rain. What a blessing. And I don't know all the solid waste, water folks, but will you all stand up and just real quickly say your name? Yay. So, sí habla en español también. So, and then of course the library, which is such an important part. They have a lot of reading programs, and we often make sure to share the information in Latino Lubbock magazine. So thank y'all for being here as well. And then we have, for the very first time, we have a Latina chief of staff, and I would be remiss not to introduce her. But Angelica, will you wave? Isn't that wonderful? That I'm so proud of her. And then we have another PIO here. And then we would also be remiss if we didn't introduce the person that handles this facility, Sissy. She's like being all shy, but she's making sure to work. But Sissy has done great stuff. She works with the senior program. She's done summer programs. She does all the community activities that we have. You can rent this facility. And I mean, it makes me proud. We have a city government that is so committed to you. And I hope I didn't miss any staff. I'm saving you, Jarrett. But, you know, what we're going to do is, you know, there's been a discussion and somehow it got leaked that we had already decided certain things. But we're in the budget season right now. And we have to dissect numbers. And thank God we have a city manager that has done such an amazing job of doing that for us. Thank you, Jarrett. And one day I told Jarrett, I'm concerned that my streets in Jackson and Mahon are in really bad shape. And he said, and I said, I really wish you could see him. And he said, okay, well, let's go see him. He said, I'll pick you up. And I was like, no, I'll pick you up. I know. And so I took him through the blocks. I also gave him a historical background. And I told him, you know, I gave him a little bit of insight about our community and how much it means to me. And that's why, you know, we do what we do. And he was such a trooper. Thank you for that. And he got to see firsthand that those roads are in disrepair and very much in need. So, you know, I appreciate that. And I think North Lubbock Facebook page even posted, they're going to be doing a road tour in our neighborhood. So I had people look out the window and I'm like, how they knew my car, I don't know. But we were out there and he got to see it. And I think that was a very good thing. And, you know, now he's very committed to this community. And so he has made it a point to visit these sites when he has questions and concerns. And I have made it a point to ask him questions when I have concerns, because I know that I am reflecting your concerns. So right now we have a unique opportunity for our community. And whether you agree or not, it's something for us to think about. And with that, I'd like Jarrett Atkinson to come and address you, and you can get to know him and make sure that afterwards, all the folks that we talked or that we introduced will have a chance to introduce them. And so thank you once again. I saw Miss Champion. I have to, if you don't know Miss Champion, raise your hand. I've known her since I was a little girl. I mean, I could literally name each and every one of you, but I really appreciate that you're here. Even Joelle from Joelle's Restaurant is here. Thank you, Joelle. Means a lot. So with that, all yours.
Councilwoman, thank you. Appreciate the opportunity to be here. When she and I were visiting, getting ready for this, I had the privilege of coming back to Lubbock. So Councilman Hernandez, I don't know if you will remember this. I was an intern in one of your early terms in the mid-1990s. Came back to Lubbock at the end of 2016. Literally the day I came back was a town hall in this room. We just had it turned 90 degrees facing the other way. So very glad to be here. With y'all's consent, what I'd like to do is run through a short presentation. I've got a few facts and figures. Some of them are interesting, some of them are boring. I'll run through those and then we're going to open it up and we're going to take questions, comments. Just tell us kind of what's on your mind. So I'm not controlling the computer, so I'll be waving wildly at Matt as we go through this. But kind of start a little bit. There we go. Talk a little bit about where we are before we started our budget season this year. So what you see on the page or what you see on your computer up here, between the existing city capital program and the ARPA funds that were previously committed, here's kind of where we are with parks. On the right-hand side of that table, we've divided it out by districts. So ARPA money is roughly $7.4 million. This is totally exclusive of the pool and splash pad discussion. The ARPA funds are about 7.4, and then you see some city funds taking that total to a little over 10 million. We've broken it down by district on the side there. District 1, 2.3, District 2, 2.9. I'm sorry, District 2, 2.9. District 3, 781. District 4, 561. District 5, 2.8, and then District 6 again at 781,000. On the left, we have pulled out pieces of that ARPA project, the bigger 7.4 million, and work that will be done in District 1 as we go forward. Some walking trails, cattail removals. One of the commitments the council has made is to try, our canyon lakes are awesome, and there's nowhere we can go anywhere in West Texas and find anything that's even close to it. But the canyon lakes are like anything else, and they age over time as well. We've got some cattail issues, we've got some flow issues, and really those lakes over the years have had silt buildup in the bottom of them. And in fact, we think that the big lake, Dunbar Historical or Lake 6, we think it's gone from about 24 feet of depth to about 7. So they have silted up pretty mightily. Not as bad at Lake 1, but as you progressively go downstream, they seem to have silted up a little more. So we are going to take a sample project and see what we can do. And we're going to start that at Lake 6 just because it's the one we know has lost the most. But we've got cattails all throughout. We're going to work on those. Dock replacement, bathroom replacement across town. You see one at Aslan. Covered picnic areas, playground replacements, and related. So those are things that are already approved and will start happening, and we'll see those roll out here pretty quick as we go forward. Matt, if you don't mind. Talk a little bit specifically about the pool that's right out here on the other side of our parking lot. The Monolongo Pool, of course, it was built in 1957. It is an anchor, it's a key feature to this area. That pool was remodeled in 2001, and in fact, that pool had the most significant remodel of any of the pools that we have had. All of them were built in the time frame. The 4 city pools were all built in that time frame from about 1957 to 1961. They are not the same pools, they're close. The 4 pools have got 2 completely different mechanical systems. 2 of them are duplicated and 2 of them are duplicated. But nonetheless, Monolongo 1957, it's a large pool for us. In fact, it's the second largest pool for us, 22,600 square feet. Was remodeled in 2001, and that's where the zero entry was put in, the steps, and a few of those things. On the right, you see the attendance over the last few years. It's hard to read that, so 2019 was the biggest recent year, that's 14,000. So over the course of that season, a little better than 3 months, there were 14,000 clicks coming through the gate. Probably not 14,000 individuals, probably quite a few folks that were able to come out and enjoy that pool more than once. The challenge that we have that we really need to come up with a good solution for, and it's at 3 of the pools worse than the others. Clap has held up a little better. The other 3 pools are aging, and they're in bad shape. Despite the 2001 remodeling work that was done, thank you. Despite that 2001 remodeling, that work was all above ground and really kind of above the scenes. What's underneath that pool and what is back in the equipment areas and all of that is largely 1957. There is just, unfortunately, not a good way on an existing pool to try to come in underneath it and to start taking all that stuff and bring it back up to modern standards. If you click the page for me. You see here, and we'll put these back up when we're done if anybody wants to come and look at them closer. And in fact, if folks would like, we could arrange a time during the day and let people come in and see these things. But what you're seeing here is just the effect of 65 years of living. And that what makes the pool function has deteriorated quite a bit. Fascinating fact, we all know that there's certain types of wood that are really resistant to water. Cypress, redwood, cedar really are probably the three big ones. This pool has cedar joints in it from when it was built. And it's actually part of the pool that doesn't leak. It's pretty neat how they did that. Turn the page for me. You see there on the left a picture that is totally unexplainable, but it's a pipe that's kind of going down into the concrete and eventually underground. What happened at Monolongo this year that caused us to not to be able to open the pool is there's a very large tank that is part of the balancing system that makes all the mechanicals work. When I say tank, think of a really big piece of pipe, about 17 feet long, capped on each end, pipes coming in, pipes going out. But it is turned up on end. Okay, so to make this function, it sits in a vault or a hole inside the equipment room. The vast majority of that 17-foot tall piece of pipe is below ground. It was apparently either installed before the roof went on that building or it was put in pieces and welded. It was steel, and it's not held up. When it started to fail as we were getting the pools ready, we tried to have it lined, we tried to have it coated, we tried everything we could to get it up. And it will not hold anymore. Even if we are to replace that, which is going to require taking the roof off of the building, cutting it up, getting it out, and then putting a different type of tank in there, the real challenge that I'm going to have, everything else in there is 65 years old, and most especially the parts of it that go under the ground and eventually actually go up underneath the pool. Picture on the right is one of the turnstiles. I think all of us there have seen that. Matt, if we could do one more. We've got on the right part of the balancing system, on the left one of the shower stalls. Let's go one more. Here is the pool proper. I want to give Colby's predecessors, Colby's staff credit. These always look really good when we open them. A lot of the leaks on these pools are held back merely by how much paint we have been able to put on them over the years. It works, but it's not the right way to do that. So let me stop right here and kind of finish up that thought I had on that piece that has failed. And again, there are two pools that have that particular device, so at some point we'll lose the other one pretty quickly as well. There is a way to fix it. It will require cutting the top off of that building. When we look at it, it may have been lifted off at some point in the past, we're not sure. You have to take that off, get that old tank out, and then we can have a tank manufactured. And if we do that, it'll be a good modern tank that's not going to rust out, and drop it back in. There's no way for us to get below grade and to get underneath it and to replace all that. I don't know how long it lasts. Does it last a season, 3, 5? We don't know. We know if we replace the tank, it won't break. It'll hold up. It's just everything else that goes with it. And I think that's going to be a big decision point. I know the council member and I have discussed that. It can be done. So if anyone says it can't, that's not correct. It can. We just can't get everything else that goes to it and bring it back and put new life back into that facility. So we're at a point where I've got 4 pools that are all very old, 65 years old up to about 62 years old, and they're all going to continue to have challenges. Clap was built a little bit differently. It's got a different style of vault. It doesn't have that big vertical tank that's dropped down inside of it. So where we ended up, or where we are now, we have the ARPA money. And I know we've had a lot of discussions about that. City councils have done a lot with it. Lubbock has about $56 million of ARPA funds that were allocated to us. You can see me aimlessly flipping the pages because the one page with all the notes is the one that has hidden itself from me. We have about $56 million that were allocated to us. All in, where we've ended up, if we take $5.1 million and we go to the splash pads with them, that leaves us with just under 7 in total. This pool to replace it with exactly what is there today. Nothing new. Everything would be new. There would be no new features to it. That's about an $8.4 million project to get in and to do that. We don't have the dollars left over to be able to do it. If I did, I'm still going to be stuck with 2 other pools that they're going to fail as well. I don't want them to. I don't want Lubbock to be the community that doesn't have that water-based recreational opportunity for our kids. These pools are important. They're important to the communities. They're important to the neighborhoods. I grew up in a public pool. I learned to swim in a public pool. And I imagine if I asked people to raise their hands in here, there's probably a whole lot of folks in this room that learned the same way. But we've got ourselves into a deal, and it didn't happen this year. It didn't happen 5 years ago, 10 years ago. Think back to 2001, we invested just under $400,000 to make the improvements at Monolongo. That was 21 years ago. And the stuff underneath it couldn't be touched at that time. It was still 1957, and it still is 1957. I would love to have a 1957 Chevy to drive to work in, but I bet you I couldn't find one that's still on the original tires, frame, engine, transmission, and everything else that goes with it. So back to the ARPA. The city does have about $56.5 million in ARPA funds that we can use. Just under $22 million of those funds, the city council has appropriated and set up what I would call community projects. They're supporting affordable housing, cybersecurity, what we call a diversion center, and that's a partnership with the county. And thank you. We have small business grants, arts grants, nonprofit grants. We're putting $3.5 million into job training. Selfishly, if you or anybody you know is interested in job training, please come take our CDL program. I would love to pay you a wage while we're paying to get you a CDL. But the community at large, we're putting another $3.5 million into job training. Broadband access, and try to work on preventing and treating homelessness. All in, it's $21.75 million. We've invested about $26 million, not counting the splash pad and pool discussion. We've invested about $26 million in city projects. A little over 10 for public safety. I showed the slide earlier that had the $10.1 million, 7.4 of that is ARPA funded that goes to parks. We are building our first public health facility with ARPA dollars, and that's one that the county has also chosen to partnership with us. So Commissioner, thanks again. We're going to create an employee education program, and we've done some very minor expenses. That's a little over $26.1 million. The county participating in public health puts a little bit back on our side of the ledger. Where that takes us is I've got $5.1 million that I have offered to the council to let us take care of 3 of these pools and to at least put something new, something that's water-based back. Is it the longest term solution? No, I don't believe it is. Is it a solution that we can quickly bring back a brand new recreational facility to an area? Yeah, I think it is. Again, that's going to leave us with just under 7, and there's a bunch of pending projects lined up into that. I've tried to read social media. I generally try to avoid that, but I've been trying to read it and keep up. I've heard some really good questions. Probably the one that is the most interesting to me is, if you do this, where will the kids learn to swim? Again, I learned to swim in a public pool, and I know lots of y'all did. We still have the swimming lesson program at CLAP, just as we have had for many years. We teach sessions in June, we teach sessions in July, two different time slots that come in each day. We will still have that. Would it be good to have it in all quadrants of town? Yes, it would. It's not something that we can do right now. Where could we go to swim? Probably the most common question, and that's a really good one. We still will have CLAP, Texas Tech for the rec center, and I know that not every single person can get in there, but a whole lot of people can. YWCA, Premier Sportsplex, Water Rampage, Southwest Aqua Sports, and 5 additional club pools that are throughout the city. Are they also available as conveniently as Monolongo? No, they're not. And again, I think in a perfect world, I don't want to close 3 or 4 pools. I want to add 3 or 4 pools. But we're not at the moment to where we can do that. Let's go ahead and click one more slide here. Okay. What you see on the left is a concept of what a splash pad would look like. They're very common. They're very popular. They're not a replacement for a pool, and I do not pretend that they are. But they are water-based recreation. You can go read any of the literature from the National Recreation and Parks programs and all those. They're generally targeted for children ages 2 to 12. If we build it, that would be what we would mostly see out there. They don't require lifeguards. There's very little of any standing water that's in them. They are less expensive to operate, but the totality of the expense isn't what makes the decision. It's what can we and can we not do with the Monolongo Pool or the Maxi Pool or the May Simmons Pool. I've been in a city that made a huge investment in splash pads, and we started out with, gee, will anybody come? And we ended up with, why can't I have another one? And we ended up with a large number of them scattered around. The one thing I have noticed personally, these aren't limited to just your traditional summer months between Memorial Day and the second week of August. They can be set up with temperature sensors to where they're available for quite a bit more. Who's been here in October when it's 90 degrees? It will happen, and those will be available. It's often more than 90 degrees well before we hit Memorial Day, and those will be able to turn on when we do that. What you see on the left, the estimated cost of that's just under $1.7 million, and that does include the demolition that needs to be done so that you have a clean site when you come back. I've already talked a little bit about what you see on the right. What would a new pool comparable to Monolongo cost us? And it's about $8.4 million. Still would have restrooms, would have the little picnic area, and would have one water slide, just like we have one water slide here now. It's not the situation I ever wanted Lubbock to be in, and I do hope that long term, if the council chooses to move forward with this, that we find a way to come back, either by putting the neighborhood-style pools back in, or that we look at a big aquatic center. There's lots of opportunity in front of us. They're just all out of reach of our finances right now. So, council member, with that, I will be glad to take questions. You might want to come up with us, or however you would like to do that. Go right ahead.
Currently in the city of Lubbock, how many swimming pools exist that are public access, that the public can actually go to?
It's either 10 or 11.
And I think one of the issues for me that was of concern is accessibility. But in looking and speaking with Councilwoman Sheila Patterson from District 2, I told her, Sheila, your pool it's bad. And she said, here's the problem. We have lost attendance over the years, which I could see why. I mean, it's not in the best shape. But they get on average about 20 visitors to that pool a day. How many do we get at Monolongo Pool when we are functioning?
Colby, about 120?
And we haven't raised the price in several years?
Our records don't go back to when we raised the price.
Okay.
So it's at least prior to 2007.
And then, if you look at the swimming pool now, we went to visit Clap Park, and I was excited to see, because it's probably the best structurally. But I thought, man, this is our best, And then I asked about the slide. Do you know how old that slide is at all the pools? Over 20 years old. I mean, have you seen the slides nowadays? They're more colorful. They have a little bit more opportunity. if we did the splash pads in the districts that we're talking about, and you talked about doing a water facility, which, don't get me wrong, but I think I often see everything going southwest. And again, accessibility is important to me. So you would update Clap Park or Clap Pool?
Yeah, we would come into CLAP, if this plan is ultimately approved, we would come into CLAP and do some cleanup on it. Really not substantial into the mechanicals or anything. We run into some regulatory challenges with that, but yes, we clean it up.
With some of the money that's left from the ARPA funds, and visiting Clap Park, I also noticed some of that equipment is extremely outdated. And that to me has the potential for the same issue that we're dealing with the Monolongo Pool. Why don't we invest some of that money into Clap Park? Because I know they're using, I think what y'all called it was a DAISY system. Is that right? And they have 8 DAISY filtration, and you're only supposed to really have, nowadays, you're only supposed to have 1. So I don't understand why we're still not updating these kinds of things.
Again, we will run into some regulatory issues as we try to update an older pool like that. If this plan goes forward, the usable pieces, and they're all different between the 3 pools that are in the roughest shape, that equipment will be scavenged and be available to help and to keep us going. But we still need a longer-term solution. CLAP's the one that will last the longest the way it is.
I'm going to ask just one more thing, or make a comment, because I'm tired of Band-Aiding everything in our district. We just can't afford to keep putting a Band-Aid on everything. But that being said, you're giving us 2 options. Well, I know that the pool is not an option to have something new done. But if we did a splash pad, we would also get the playground equipment, restroom facilities, and covered pavilion. Is that right?
Yeah, at a concept level, you would have all of those things. It's not going to look exactly like that drawing. We haven't designed them yet, but it would be similar.
Or we keep the old pool and you do the updates? Yes or no? Is it either or?
We would only replace that tank.
So that being said, you guys ask questions, but I think it's important for us to be sensible. First of all, when was the last time that you attended a swimming pool? When was the last time you saw it? Because if you saw it, I think you would understand the poor condition that it is in. It looks terrible. And I know that they've done the best they can with what they have, but we have to put some commitment and some dollars into this. So let's ask some questions. And first of all, I think we have a list of District 1 folks. So do we have that list? Where's Angelica?
Matt, you're signing.
Yes. We have it. Let's get District 1 first. If you're District 1 and you'd like to ask a question, do we have a mic? Oh, over here, Dr. Ramirez, right over here, if you don't mind. And I appreciate all the other folks that have come, but we have to prioritize District 1 first.
Gonzalo Ramirez, I am in District 1. Okay, thank you for that presentation. I think it clears up as far as the splash pad idea. Okay, and I'm glad that people were asking about the swimming issue, because that's, to me, that's a public safety issue, is if we have children that don't learn how to swim. So I don't mind the splash pad. I think that'd be a great idea, but I don't want us to lose sight of the fact that we need pools. And the other thing is that, yeah, the Band-Aid issue, I really would rather that you fill those pools in, just like people do in their homes. You know, once a pool gets old, they fill it in, or they tear it all out and build a new one. So that's what I think is the solution is we need to build new pools, not repair these. Okay, thank you.
Alice? And if y'all will, just out of respect for each other, let's keep our questions and limited, please.
Yes, Alice Lozada with North Lubbock Neighborhood Association. Well, to think that we wouldn't have a pool is heartbreaking. Okay, first off, that's heartbreaking because so many of the families and the children in this neighborhood, you know, were used to having the pool. So you said that there was a certain amount of dollars that could be allocated toward the pool, something like, what was it, 2 million? What was the allocation that you said?
1.5?
Or 1.5 million? And it would take 9 million,
1.67.
almost 8,
Yeah, we can work off the numbers
right here?
here.
Okay, 1.7, almost. Okay, so if that was all that could be allocated from ARPA funds, what is there to help supplement the rest of the dollars so that something that could be rebuilt could be done? Is there options out there for that additional funding?
And now, if the question is, are there dollars otherwise to be brought to bear that would get us between the price of a splash pad and the price of the new pool?
Yes.
They are not there right now.
Okay,
They're not.
okay. All right, that was my question. Thank you.
I know that we had some folks that also asked about, let's build an aquatic center like Littlefield. And that would be half the size of our pool. I did look into that. I also looked into the brownfield and other things, but it would be half the size. And like right now, I know somebody had commented that it's a place to do exercise. There's no space for exercise there. It's more of just kind of splashing and swimming in the immediate area that you're in. It's already small. It's a junior Olympic-sized pool. It's not the full Olympic-sized pool. The other thing is that we also set up for kids to be able to go to other pools. We set up city bus. Only 10 participants utilize that. So, Lala?
Yes, thanks first of all, Christy, for having this meeting. Certainly appreciate it. Lala Chavez from the Barrio Guadalupe. If this does occur and they end up closing Monolongo, this will be the second pool that they've closed in North Lubbock. Mackenzie Park had a pool, a beautiful pool back in the day, probably over 20 years ago.
It's longer
filled
than
it
that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, 20 plus years. So, you know, that was a nice pool. Everybody used to go there. It was right in the medium. Now we may have another pool closed, again, in Northeast Lubbock. It just seems like we're being affected all the way around. It happens time and time again. And that's a huge concern for our youth, you know, and for the adults that do go out there and do get to enjoy these pools. My concern, you mentioned a while ago, Jared, is that 20 years and things haven't been replaced. Why has it taken so long to replace something? There's wear and tear as time goes on. So by the time, now we're at the point where it's irreplaceable because of that. You know, it just seems like there was a neglect on my part, and I'm not sitting here pointing fingers, but that's just the way that it is, just to be open about it. There's a neglect, and I don't think that we'd be sitting here having this problem at this point. But again, I'm a big proponent of having pools. I'm a proponent about keeping Monolongo Pool, and speaking as a community member, I'd like to keep the pool, and I'd like to come up with funds if it takes the community getting out and raising money or doing our part, hitting big businesses, doing what we need to do. I think that's what we need to do. I think that's what most of us would like to see happen.
And I pretty much agree with all that. So, are there things inside that pool area that could have been maintained better? There are. There are still the fundamental pieces that make that pool work that you can't replace.
Sure.
So would it have lasted a few more years? Probably. But
Right.
does it end up with something that the underneath part of it's not 65 years old? It doesn't. And I would love nothing more than to take out all 4 of the pools
Sure.
and put pools back. You
Absolutely.
mentioned Mackenzie. There was a large pool out there. That'd be a perfect place
Absolutely.
to have not a pool, but an aquatic center. It kind of sits up on the little bluff over there. It's beautiful around it. I don't know why that one was taken out. It was older than these are, but it would
I
be
swam
neat.
in that pool growing up.
Did you?
Thank you so much.
Let's move to that.
Build that pool?
No, that was the city.
I
And
have no
just
clue.
for historical purposes, because at the end of the life of that pool, it was actually referred to as Mexican pool. And sadly, but it was a public pool that did start also having issues. And then when it became segregated, and, you know, all of us lived around. It was a little bit before my time, but that's what they referred it to. And eventually they just let it go by the wayside. And so then it was closed eventually. So another question?
Thank you.
Thank you, Lala. Please, Joanne.
Okay, I'm a little intelligent, but I'm sure there's more people here with higher education, and but looking at those numbers and the numbers to build a new pool, and then the numbers that were stated by the gentleman over there, how many children were in attendance at the Monolongo Pool? He said about 120. Did you say? Okay, so. And I have an educational field, how will it look to have 120 children running around at this splash pad? And I'm with Lala, I'm sorry, ma'am, that I would love to see the community get really behind each other and raise the funds to get the pool, because here I am getting teary-eyed, but in the last 6 months that I have lived on the corner of Indiana and Colgate, I've had 3 incidents where it involves young youth in our neighborhood, drug-related situations, cartel situation right next door to me, a drive-by shooting right straight down by the Boys and Girls Club. And to avoid those situations in our youth, we need to have positive atmospheres for our children of today in our neighborhood to go and hang out and make positive friends and attributions to themselves, so that we can have highly educated judges, lawyers, physicians, Supreme Court, whatever it takes to make our Hispanic youth have a positive attributions. And I don't see how 120 children would enjoy, a splash pad. I've been to, splash pads, and they're about, for about 30 to 40, 60 kids, maybe, if at that. So I don't know. I'm with her saying, is there a proposal that, we can put into effect for the city so we can raise more funds, not just for our district, but the other districts that are potentially going to lose a pool?
I think if the community wanted to rally and help, and businesses wanted to help, the only real challenge would be time. And if it moved quickly, I would presume the council would very favorably look at that. Let me rewind to the ARPA. And without the ARPA dollars, we would be in the position of trying to get that tank out and put another one in and get this going for the next year. The ARPA funds have got 2 time frames on them. The first is what they call a commitment deadline, and that's December 31 of 2024. So we're in pretty good shape working against that one. The second timeline is what they call expenditure. So the last dollar has to have been spent by December 31, 2026. So as we look towards potentially a different way to do this, those are just the 2 dates to keep in mind.
I think Nick, were you going to ask a question? I understand the emotional connection. We all have that. Look, we've had schools closed. I think, how many have we had in the recent time? 3 schools closed. And now we're dealing with a pool is closed because of the infrastructure issue. I was hoping that would be open soon, but nonetheless, it's an emotional issue for all of us. Nick?
Nick Moniz, I live in Guadalupe neighborhood, District 1. I had a quick question regarding, since you're saying that we're on a timeline, if by 2026 the ARPA funds have to be spent, like that's the last dollar that has to be spent, is there like a project timeline to where we're going into roughly December 2022, we've got 4 years to potentially, and I think that's kind of what the general question is like, why is there such a rush on trying to get it done? Is it because that's like the 1.67 is quick to spend so we can knock it down and get it situated? Or is it because, you know, does that make sense? Like, is there a project timeline? With all project management, you have a timeline where you can kind of matriculate all those things. So if there's a 4-year time frame, we should be able to, in theory, have 4 years to create that additional funding. Secondly, sorry, that's my first question. Second question is, if 120 kids go there roughly 5 days a week and summer's roughly about 16 weeks, where does that money go? Does it go back to Parks and Recreation, and how much is that allocated back to those individual pools?
Okay, do number 2 first. The splash pads don't have a charge. So there's not a gate, there's not a fee. They're open and they're available. If you talk about pool revenue, the pool revenue that we generate, remember, we haven't changed fees since at least 2007. That pool revenue won't pay for the chemicals over the course of a year. And that's why you have public pools. The city ends up absorbing that cost. To your first question on the timeline, my rush is merely to put something on the table that if ultimately it's approved, we put something back as quick as we can. That's it. If instead there is another deal, there's something that moves quickly that generates significant other investment that comes into it, we're still going to have a deadline. We're not going to have a problem beating the 2024 deadline. That's not going to be tough at all. It's beating the 2026 deadline. Because if we hit December 31st and whatever it is we're funding with the ARPA dollars isn't finished, the dollars evaporate. The federal government takes it back. That get your questions? Thank you.
I did also want to mention, besides the fact that the splash pads are free, that they would be open not just two months of the year, because right now the swimming pools are open 2 months of the year. They would be open about 8 months, spring break to October, something like that, and it's free. But, you know, I don't know if you're talking about 120 kids a day, it would be all day long. But there would be time limits, right? Is that?
Yeah, the 120 kids, that's average per day.
And it's over a compressed time period. This is not compressed.
What are the pool hours now?
Right, the pool hours that you have are going to be from 1 to 6, and so that's where it's closed. We're a traditional, if we were building this facility, it would be open to the public at 10 a.m. and it wouldn't close till about 8 o'clock on each one of them. Normally, we would open that right around the spring break period. It just depends on when we feel like we're going to have that last freeze where we're not going to have to worry about that. And the same thing as we're closing it. So sometimes it could close in October, sometimes it may be September when it closes. But we would understand when that temperature, that nighttime temperature gets, you know, into the 70s and stays, doesn't get above 85, that's about the time we're going to start bringing it down line.
Anybody can go to it. I mean, go ahead.
Anybody can go to them and use them. The biggest user group that's going to get in the water and play is 2 to 12 years old.
No?
No.
So where's the safety for the children or the families?
It's like any other park amenity. You are going to fence it?
Yes, ma'am. That would include a fence around it. And what we would do is our park staff would come in at 10 a.m. and they would do a safety check. They would make sure the bathrooms are clean. They would check the chemical levels to make sure we're okay within that standards. And then it would be open to the public if people could come in and out. And then we would bring staff members back at 8 o'clock when it was closing, clean the facility, make sure the chemical readings are right. And so that would be our process on it. So you are correct, yes. That's a proposal. Now we can build it. There's multiple ways that you can build it. You can build it where it is just open to the public. They have an actuator on them. Well, we wouldn't put it would be like a wrought iron fence. It wouldn't be a fence that you can't see, a privacy fence type. Correct. Yeah.
Joel, you can still come and ask your question, but let's go ahead and Clyde.
I'm Clyde James from the Overton area. And my question is, considering the fact that we don't have the current funding in the regular city budget or from ARPA, what would be a timeline that you could come up with on when there would be funds available to replace the pool? In other words, we don't have the money now. Would we have it in 2 years, 3 years, or 4 years? And if we had the splash pad in the meantime, would that preclude replacing it with a pool? In other words, if we get a splash pad, does that mean we never have a pool again? And so those two questions are sort of related. If we had to wait a few years, how long would we have to wait to get the money to do it?
Having the splash pad does not preclude anything. In all the 3 locations we're talking about, there's plenty of room to have both. The only thing that precludes the pool is the dollars. So where do the dollars come from? Typically, when you're looking at a recreation, a quality of life, whatever you want to call it, when you're looking at a quality of life improvement of this magnitude, so 3 times 8.4, those are generally things that a city council chooses to put on a bond, and the public gets to vote for it.
I see.
Generating $8 million on top of the other needs, the entire parks budget for the city of Lubbock is just a little bigger than $12 million. That includes their capital. This year, prior year was different because of ARPA. This new year would be different if we go down this road. Typically, when you're looking at that, it's going to be a quality of life bond that would go out, and that's subject to the council.
So it would be possible then to have the splash pad until the time comes around for it's appropriate for another bond issue to be issued, to be put forth.
Exactly.
Okay.
District 1, District 1. Ray, oh, sorry, Gwen, go ahead.
It's okay. I'm Gwen, and I'm with the, I live in the Arne Benson area. And it's really not a question, but it's more of a statement, is that we're tired. We're tired of everybody taking from this district. I mean, we've closed our schools. Now we're closing our pools. I've seen it so many times to where our youth, we're raising them to, the numbers are growing in crime because they have no place to go. There's no more mentors. There's no more, you almost took Northwest Little League away, but we fought together to keep it. Now we're done. We're tired. You're taking from our children, our families. I've seen all the numbers that you're saying, but not once have you mentioned the better for the community. You're tearing our communities apart. We live here. Yes, we live by a college tech. We love you guys. No disrespect, but we're homeowners. We want our stuff to be left alone. We pay taxes. Where's the revenue? That number of 120 that you guys are saying that is that's all that our numbers are going out, that's a crock. That is such a lie because I live here. I've attended that pool. I don't have a pool in my backyard, but I do attend, and these kids are more than 120 number. It's full capacity. That's false. Like everything else. You guys keep saying that, oh, we're band-aiding the situation. No, we're paying taxes to pay for you guys to hire people to fix this, to maintain it before the season. You know that the season's gonna come summer. Why wasn't this stuff fixed up? These are our children. We're more putting them into juvenile stuff because they don't have anywhere else to go. I'm sorry, and I'm no disrespect to you guys, but this is the thing that you have to take when you're in office. And I don't think anybody else, we haven't had anybody.
Oh, is that directed to me, Gwen?
No.
Okay, because I've been working to address
Chrissy,
this.
don't take offense to it. It's not offended, but you know what, like you just said about Little Mexico or Pool. Well, you know what? We're Hispanics. We need to start fighting and standing up for what we believe in, everybody, because they're taking and they're taking.
Thank you, Gwen. I appreciate you. Okay. Manny?
Manny Flores, District 1. I live just down the street. I have a couple of questions for you. First and foremost, who's going to sign off on the decision of this? Is this going to be a city council deal, your deal, voters?
City council.
City council, okay.
Yes.
Another thing, I saw the numbers you have up there. Is there even an option to which maybe a couple of districts will say, okay, well, we want the splash pad, but District 1 says, well, we want the pool. Whatever revenue we have left from here, can we not apply it to this other one? Is that even an option?
Okay, so there's three pools proposed to close three
Correct.
splash pads in their place, roughly 1.7 million each. If this district chose instead to say, go ahead and do what you can do to open that pool,
Correct.
yeah, city council can make that choice. They can.
And then the revenue from here, can it be applied to this other one? That's what I'm saying. Can it be applied to the Monolongo swimming pool? If, say, the other two districts decide they want the splash pad instead.
Right.
You know, we're looking at, 2.4 million, 8.4 million, as opposed to 1.6. You got almost $6 million left over if you go this route, the splash pads. Can then be applied to the Monolongo pool if they decide they want the splash, the other ones want that splash
Okay,
pad.
and I may not understand the question, but there's just a little over $5 million total,
Correct.
not 8.4.
Okay.
8.4 is what it would be.
What it would cost.
If dollars were available to give back exactly what's there today. So
Okay.
if ultimately a decision was made, no, don't take out Monolongo, do what you can to get it back running again, yeah, council can make that decision. The difference between that cost and the 1.7 would still be in the ARPA bank, if you want to call it that.
Right.
And could be reallocated, yeah.
Okay.
It might, round numbers, you would be left with about 1.5, 1.55, something to that effect, to work against the 8.4.
They're right. And that was my question, if
Yeah.
it would be able to be applied to the other pool. So, okay, thank you.
If the difference in the money shows up
Right,
quick enough.
all right,
Your spread would be, call it 6.9, something like that.
right. All right, thank you.
One of the questions that I asked also of the city manager was, how soon, if we chose to just keep our pool and just do upgrades, how soon would we get it done? And when would that happen?
We would start, if the decision is made to keep Monolongo as is, where is, we would start as quick as we could after October 1st to get that tank out and get the new one in its place and try to have it open the same time, that Clap would open.
My name is
Natalia.
Natalia Salazar, and I would like to know if this is already a done deal. You have already decided what to do? Because usually when you bring something to the neighborhood, it's already a done deal.
It is not. a
About
done-
this splash thing, we need the swimming pool, and that's all. We don't need, you can build a new swimming pool in all the area where you knocked out the school, where it was knocked down, and we're paying taxes on the school we don't have. Use that money that we're paying taxes for a school that we don't have.
Okay.
So that's our recommendation. I don't think the city council should make the decision. It should be us, the neighborhood people. And thank you very much.
Just real quickly, Lala, there's no more Tubbs money, is there? And just the other part is that this is why I brought this to my district first. Jarrett will tell you, or the city manager will tell you, he presented the city council with this, and I told him I'm not going to decide anything until we get input from my district. So that's what we're doing here tonight. So there is no done deal. But one thing I will tell you, I think we all have that emotional connection with Monolongo Pool. But how is Carmona Elementary? Isn't it beautiful? I can already tell you that one of the districts has already decided they want splash pads. Yeah, and I have not decided. And Jarrett will tell you, I'm like trying to find everything for a pool, but money is an issue. Ray?
My name is Henry Ray Losada, North Lubbock Neighborhood Association. Okay, beautiful splash pool. I see the little kids running and having fun, getting wet, laughing, smiling and everything. But what about the preteens? What about the teens? What about the young adults? What about the adults? And what about the seniors like me? The kiddie pool will not fit our needs. So I just want y'all to think about it. Thank you.
Let's get other people real quick. I'm sorry, but Chad? But for the police, y'all aren't leaving, are you? Okay, sorry. I'm saving them for last because, go ahead, Chad.
Hi, my name is Chad Young. I agree with what you just said. Like, can you imagine a splash pad with 16 and 17-year-olds with 6-year-olds? In my opinion, those 6 and 17-year-olds are going to end up getting in trouble because they're not going to want to be there. You know, since I'm not from Lubbock, born and raised in Dallas, but since I've been in Lubbock, I've been in this neighborhood. And what I can tell you is I've only been involved with the youth for the past 14 years in this neighborhood. And what I see is these kids, they don't have the same opportunities as everyone else. That's why we started the Arnett Bisson Cowboys football team, because what I've noticed working at the Boys and Girls Club, when those kids get to Cavazos, they are so far behind in sports because they didn't play. So we take the pool from them, where are they gonna go? Those 120 kids, where are they gonna go? And I know for a fact it's more than 120 kids because I'm there. I'm there, you know? So where are they gonna go when we take the pool away? The splash pad, the 18, 16-year-olds are not gonna be there with 6-year-olds. You know, so where are they gonna go?
The splash pad is not a replacement for the pool, and we don't pretend that it is. Right now, and this is not based on taking people's age when they come in the door, most of our teens that are using public pools are gathering at Clap, and it will still be there. Is it the best answer? No, it's not. Roger?
Yes, Roger Sedler from the Congress. I wanted to speak to the issue that many of our city assets have been given away, demolished recently, starting with the Municipal Auditorium Coliseum that a lot of people used and loved. The City Health Department was demolished and relocated to a less accessible place in 19th Street, the Talkington buildings on Avenue Q. And now it seems that we're on the brink of shutting down 3 of our city pools and only leaving 1. And it seems that the needs of the people are not being considered. That what the people love and are connected to has been taken away bit by bit by bit and replaced with what? A downtown civic park that almost no one wants, which I would ask you, Mr. Atkinson, how much in taxpayer money is going to that project that could be used here to replace our pools?
Wait.
Most of the buildings you referenced, I can't speak to. They were well before my time. You're right on where public health is. It is a bad location for that.
Mm-hmm.
The ARPA dollars, the county's assistance, what used to be the old Safeway store down on 50th and U, we will be able to have public health and community development all in one place with a gigantic storefront to help our people. That's what that's for.
And more accessible.
Much more accessible. And it has its own parking lot, which is a great improvement. You asked about money for the downtown, taxpayer money for the downtown park, and could it be used over here, or how much of it? And the answer to that is none. So the tax dollars that went into that park were the very initial pieces of it for the design and for the demolition, and that was all downtown TIF money. And that money can only be collected in downtown and can only be spent in downtown. So the answer to that one is 0.
It might be time to question the power that the TIFs and the PIDs have, and they're sucking money out of the general fund that should be the people's money, and it shouldn't be designated only for that area.
Is it private funds that are going to be raised to pay for that park?
The construction.
The construction. Thank you, Roger.
Sure.
Anybody else from District 1? District 1 first. Maggie, Councilwoman Maggie Trejo.
You know, I have really lived this part of the city for many, many, many years. And all the time that I hear is kids need a pool. Because a lot of people work in this area, and when they leave, their kids can, in the summertime especially, when they're off, they can still go to the pool, and they feel safe. And they, because they always say, well, there's somebody always taking care of us. And recently, changing the subject a little bit, there was approval, or it's been worked on all the streets that that need to be redone. Of course, it's always good to always be planning ahead many, many years, not wait until the last, and then you see the pool, that it's not going to be workable. So this needs to have better planning on that, to be thinking about the people, like you were saying, that there's going to be some that are going to be gone too in a few years. Why wait that long? Always think ahead and plan for what can stay.
We need to be proactive, not reactive. Exactly. Thank you. Me personally, I blame Victor. I'm just kidding, Victor. Just kidding, Victor. I love you. District 1. Yes, sorry. Gilbert, did you hear that question? Can we get some ARPA money to match us? Partnering.
Partnering with the city and so many other adventures. The issue on university, that was part of the bond election that we had in the past. I think the city's going up for a bond election also, but that's the only money we have. We also received,
CARES Act.
We also received about $61 million on ARPA money, and believe me, we're using it all for the EMEs, juvenile detention centers. That money doesn't last long at all. But I have no ARPA money left. We're spending it just as fast as the city is also.
Roads.
Yeah, thank you.
Former Councilman Victor Hernandez. Thank you for being here, Victor.
Sure. My wife's here as well.
Yes. She's going to ask her own question. Leave her alone. She can speak for herself, Victor.
Oh, I will.
You're talking about ARPA funds and as the funding source. There are plenty of other funding sources. You talked about renovations to Monolongo swimming pool and to this facility. Those were CDBG funds. So I think a couple of things. Number one, you're limiting yourself by just saying the only pool of monies available are ARPA funds, number one. Number two, I don't see why the city doesn't phase this in. ARPA funds, phase it in. ARPA funds might go away in the future or might not be offered again. I understand that. Well, you use those monies to have the greatest impact. You do one pool this year, and then you start squirreling money away through CDBG funding, through general fund, through the general fund, and other funds to start doing a second pool next year, and so on. I hear you, Jared, and you say you were interning. I think you were shorter when you were interning.
I think I've shrunk a little, actually.
I think you've grown up a little bit or grown tall. But the reality is the city, in my experience, and I was there 17 years, is that the city, when they're committed to a project, they find the money. When they're not all that committed, then, all of a sudden it becomes a problem. And the last thing I'll say about this is that I find it as a tactical maneuver, strategic maneuver, to put all of these pools that are in different districts, you're kind of pitting districts against each other. And to me, that's not the way to go about doing this. I think some leadership needs to be shown, saying we can do this, and then we can do this. Well, I was going to say that was my last thought, but this is really my last thought. I've never understood why the city of Lubbock doesn't have enclosed pools, why they don't have pools that are open 12 months out of the year instead of a couple of months. It seems you've got a major infusion of funds for infrastructure that you're really not utilizing most of the year. So it seems to me bond elections, that's the easy out. Say, well, let's put it on a bond election. Come on, the money's there. I know it's there. You just need to find it and allocate it to this project.
So thank you. And some of those comments I think I can agree with. There's not in the ARPA for 1 year. There's not enough to do one of the three, and truly we need to do 4, or we do need an enclosed aquatic center. That 100%. Whether we spend a few $100,000 and reopen these pools, or we ultimately find $8.5 million for a bunch of pools, we still have 10 to 12 weeks that we're using them. There is no question about that, no argument from me. There's not quite enough ARPA to do one pool this year. Future funding opportunities are out there. Right now, the CDBG is fully committed, completely. There's about $900,000 that's going to go to a Coronado project to do some demolition work. If we do that, we still have a gap. And to try to accumulate grants, so we've talked about some of the regional pools that are around us, and some of those had some grant assistance through Parks and Wildlife. We will regain our eligibility for that later this year. It's a multi-year process to do that, and it's never more than 50-50. The state continues to take that sporting goods sales tax and divert it into other spots to do that. But all in, if you want to do 3 pools, I need $26 million, and it needs to come in a relatively short period of time. Even if I subtract the $5 million from the ARPA, the city does not have that right now.
And that's my point. You're looking at doing all 3 at one time. I'm saying you don't have to do all 3 at one time. The one that's closed is Monolongo. So that would be the highest priority. You've got 5 million. Apply the 5 million to the 8.4, that leaves you 3.4 to come up with. With appraisal creep having gone on, I don't care what the tax rate is, your all's income is going to be a lot greater this year. And for you to say, oh, we just can't find the money. Come on, Jarrett. You know how city government works. I know how city government works.
So the appraisal growth is way up. We are limited by law to not more than 3.5% revenue that comes in. The budget proposal is actually less than that. It's about 2.2-ish%. And we are having discussions at council to go to the no new revenue rate, which pretty much, not exactly, but almost puts you 0 to 0 across the years.
Yeah.
And we can talk
It's
about that decision
Yeah,
too.
it's a lack of commitment is what I'm really getting at.
Thank you, Victor. And I do want to point out that in North Lubbock, we have one public pool right here. And District 2 has 2 public pools. District 3, 1 public pool. And one of the things that has been of concern to me, if we do that one big aquatic center, that we don't get forgotten. I think I've expressed that to the city manager. And one more thing is that I do love the ideal about having that pool open longer than just 2 months a year. And the Texas Tech pool is a great example of how we could achieve that. So, Judge Aurora Hernandez, please.
Hi. One of the things to me is, one, the pool is necessary. I go swimming every day. Right now, I go swimming every day. Every morning, 4 o'clock, I'm at the swimming pool. I use the swimming pool. What you've said is there's other areas where you can go, yeah, they're paying for those areas. Tech is not accessible. Tech is not accessible to me. Okay, it's not going to be accessible to the community. I don't care what you say, unless you're one of those kids that happens to be in a program that says, oh, tech is open to us this week, let's go there. Then they get to use that pool. Otherwise, it's not. And tech is the closest one. The other thing is, you keep saying, oh, well, people aren't going. Well, Montelongo's been closed all this time. It's been closed all this year.
Plus COVID.
And COVID, and I was looking at those numbers because I looked at those numbers. In 2019, you had 14,000. In 2020, it went way down, but guess what? That was COVID. We're still recovering from COVID. You've saved on staff. You haven't had to hire lifeguards. You haven't had to have people there. So where's the staff? What are you doing with that funding? Why isn't that allocated back in there? Now, granted, it's not a lot, but still, it's money that could have been put back into that area. And that's just me looking at, I don't look at the whole picture like Victor does. I'm just saying it needs to happen. It needs to happen for these kids. You could make an indoor pool. That's the craziness in all of this, and charge $3 and have classes, have CPR training, have all this stuff. If it's one of those, if you build it, they will come. And they really will. I'm telling you from experience, when my kids were little, we were at the Montelongo Pool, and we were adults. I don't have any kids. I do have grandkids. However, but the pool's not open. And so for you to say, well, they're not coming, well, hell, the pool's not open. How can they come? It's not there. So it needs to happen. And the money, I'm sure you can find it. And it's like, one of the things that happened was you're saying, oh, we're going to build the health center. Where did you say? 50th and you?
50th ARPA funds.
Yeah. But it's all ARPA funds. If COVID hadn't hit us, we wouldn't have ARPA funds. So where would that money come from?
Come piece at a time.
Well, you would have to do it, and that's exactly what Victor said. Then let's do it a step at a time. Yeah, okay, give the other 2 districts the splash pads. You said one already wanted it. Fine, then that funding then comes the one that you were going to use it. You're going to say, because you're only going to have people to work either in the morning or in the afternoon. Nobody's going to man it during the day, right? You're going to save that money, put it back into this area.
Judge Hernandez, thank you so much. We have other folks that I appreciate you. Anybody else from District 1? No, come to the speaker, please. Or you're shy. Don't be shy. I'll try to repeat what you say. He worked 30 years at Meadowbrook Golf Course. Do you know one? A private investor?
So the question, Meadowbrook Golf Course is owned by the city. The operations of it have been privatized for decades, really. I think maybe it's the third different company that's running it today. So your question is, could somebody come in private and build and operate a pool potentially on city property? Sure. Sure. I don't think they're going to do it for a $2 or $2.50 entry fee. And that's the true benefit of the public pools, is getting those entry fees as low as they can be driven.
District 1, anybody else that would like to make a comment? If you'll come up to this microphone. If you've already spoken, let's give others a chance. Gilbert? Technically, he didn't speak. Sorry, Gwen, but we got to give everybody a chance.
I won't take long. I just wanted to remind the city that as a county commissioner, I have 2 districts in my precinct, which is yours and Mrs. Harris. I logged 22 calls from this neighborhood, and I logged 18 calls from Manhattan Heights, May Simmons area, and they were all against the pools being closed. I understand what you said about your tax rate. We just set our tax rate this morning at 0.3499 because you can't go with that 3.5. A lot of people don't understand that. So the funds are not there. Even though our growth went up and our revenue went up in the city and the county, we were not able to take advantage of it. Correct me if I'm wrong, because of the laws that were passed in Austin. Okay, so last year we had a tax rate of 0.3599. This year we had to drop it a 1.5. So we lost about $3 million of revenue. So our county departments are paying the price. Our employees are paying the price. So I know the money's not there. We're dealing with the ARPA funds too. We received $61 million federal funds thanks to our President Biden. I'll be very blunt with it. Okay, but our needs are a lot. And what my concern is our children. Today we have 97 kids about this tall at the juvenile detention center that they're committing adult crimes because they have nowhere to go during the day, so they're out there stealing and doing whatever it does, so they're at the juvenile detention center. So we have an issue with crime. We have an issue with youth crime. So the pool is going to entertain our kids during the day. And it's keep them from roaming the streets and doing whatever it is. One of these days you guys need to go there to the juvenile detention center. It'll break your heart. That's what the county deals with. But going back to your question, Arlene, it was a good one. We're trying to build the best infrastructure on the county level also. We have an issue with the medical examiner's office. We're going to have to build. We're going to have to expand the juvenile detention center, and so we can jail more kids. That's bottom line. So our funds are really just about gone. I had a call on university. Why didn't you use that money on the pool? That's a different fund. 2 years ago, there was a bond election, and I demanded that I got $5 million into my precinct, and I partnered with the city. Thank you very much. And we are building the North University. So, Lana, to answer your questions, money is scarce. And this year, we had a hard time even balancing our budget. You're going to meet the same thing if you're not going there already, right? So thank you. But the calls were tremendous. We need a pool, whatever it takes. Tubbs Elementary, you got a big space there that's empty. Build a brand new pool there. Find the funds, like Victor says. Why do you rely only on the ARPA funds? Why do you have to rely only on the ARPA funds? So thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Council. County Commissioner Gilbert Flores. Anybody else from District 1? And he does. Anybody else? If not, let's open it and we're just going to limit it to 3 people from any other district. Adam, I think he's from District 2, and he'd like to speak. And mind you, we are limited on time, Adam.
Well, some people have floated around my idea that I'm going to propose right now, and Jared kind of alluded to it earlier. So a lot of people have spoken here, and this is more than just a nostalgia or an emotion thing. This is a public safety issue. And we just decided over a street bond for public safety issues involving kids and new schools and the infrastructure that they need to get back and forth. And so, as others have stated, we need to pull out all the stops. We need to figure out, where do we get these funds? The splash pads, great idea. The communities don't want it. That's not what we need. So I'm glad that the county is spending so much money on the jails, because they're going to need it. You close these schools. We already have an issue with youth violence and youth getting in trouble. That's already been spoken to. We deal with the same thing in District 2. So my proposal is this. We could dedicate whatever that amount is you want to dedicate from the ARPA funds. And then we create another bond, not only to do Monolongo Pool, but to do all of the pools and look at doing them right. Look at doing them closed so that we can have them open more months of the year, and that's more revenue. And my last part of this that I'll end with is this kind of stuff right here is exactly why the no new revenue rate idea is a dumb idea. I've said it on the campaign trail to those candidates who are pushing it, and I'm going to say it until I'm blue in the face. That's a dumb idea for this reason. You would not add square feet onto your home and expect to just keep your money the same. It doesn't work. So we need to pull out all the stops. If we did a bond proposal for 40, 50 million to do pools across the city, the tax rate increase on that would not be significant. So thanks.
Thank you. Hi, what was your name?
Phyllis Gant, District 2. And I was going to hold my seat because our meeting is Monday. But when you said Sheila Patterson Harris was for the splash pool, I had to speak to that. I personally, summer of 2018, summer of 2019, paid out of my pocket for over 50 kids to swim every Tuesday. One lady said, if you build it, they will come, and they will. A swimming pool in a community that I can walk to is very attractive. You made the comment that you guys provided transportation on the city bus. I don't want to leave my house with a towel and a sandwich to hop on a bus and ride across town to possibly swim or maybe not. And that's insanity. Those children can walk. I grew up in Lubbock, Texas. If you know anything about Lubbock, you know me. It's ludicrous. A splash pad stops at an age. What about those other children? And we know the prison system, that's where real money is vested. But how many kids are we going to continue to lose because we chose a splash pad over a pool? Now, I'm not insane. We won't win them all because they can swim. We know what that is. But is it not our responsibility to at least provide an alternative? Because when we were sponsoring kids to swim, they went every Tuesday. They swam all day, and it caught on. Yeah, we can raise the funds. You can say what you want, and it's not even a racial thing. My family is the Rainbow Coalition. But when you put this type of group of people together, you can raise the money. If you don't believe me, stop paying your taxes. Don't take our pools. You want a splash pad? Put it right next to it. Maybe Sheila and Sean will go. I have no idea. But that age group from 13 to 18, where do they go when the babies are in the splash pool?
Mm-hmm. Thank you. I really appreciate the input that we've gotten. I think it's important. It's, it's a lot to deal with, but I agree with, and Jarrett will tell you, we've had this conversation many times because it does concern me. Now, I'm going to keep working with Jared, and we've talked about it, and Colby has been very open to also assisting, as has Brooke. Thank y'all for everything. I believe that we need to find the money. And one of the things is, you know, as he mentioned, we're looking at a grant also from the Texas Parks and Wildlife. The issue is it'll take a little bit of time, but we are looking as many things as we can. So it is not a done deal. Let me just tell you that. I think that's an important message. Somehow that message got out there and I don't think that was fair, but that's why we have this. And I hope that we do more of this, because look at this, look in this room and all the comments, and every comment is important. And even some of the things that some of you said opened my eyes to some opportunities. So we have to communicate with each other and let's make this happen somehow. I think it's pretty obvious. Rudy, you want to talk?
Yes, ma'am.
Come on.
Finding the money doesn't matter if you don't maintain it. Them umbrellas have been up for 2 years or more. It doesn't matter. We're going to spend all this money again, and the maintenance isn't there. Why?
Those umbrellas are permanent, Rudy. They don't get put up.
They would be taken down. But why wasn't the maintenance there? Why did it take so long to announce that it wasn't going to be open, knowing full well that it wasn't going to be open at all?
Colby, you want to come in?
Why announce that it wasn't going to be open or it was going to be delayed, knowing full well it wasn't going to be open at all? Why were people taking, was the Parks and Rec taking reservations for private parties?
Why were they taking what?
I was told they were taking reservations for private parties.
When Parks and Rec was getting ready to get all of the pools open is when that tank failed. They did not walk away from it.
Okay, what was that date? What date was that?
I don't have that date.
Okay.
Let me talk just a little bit. We brought in any and everybody that we could find to try to get that tank patched up. We sent our water and sewer people in there, see if they could come up with an idea. Tried to line it, coat it, refill it, and we lost it again.
When?
Every effort was made prior to pool opening date to save that, not to walk away from it.
What date was that?
I don't have
There
that
has to
date
be
in
work
front of me.
orders.
Do what?
There has to be work orders.
Sure, I don't have them with me.
I've got the dates of each one that we did. I've got the dates. I don't have them with me, but I can provide that. I can tell you the process that we go through. And so beginning in late February, first part of March, we start ramping up the pools to get open. And we go through that process. We go through and we power wash every single one of them. Then we go through and paint them. And then after we get them painted, then we start to make the chemical portion go. So we start to fill them. And so as we fill them, we start turning on the pumps to get the chlorinators and all those types of things going. And as we filled Monolongo Pool, that's when it failed. And so the process was the same for all four pools as the opening procedures. And so that process wasn't changed. The reason that we took reservations is because we fully expected to open. And so those reservations started long before, because they're popular in all four of our pools, as popular just for somebody to do a birthday party or not. And people want to call early to get those reservations. And so if we knew that the pools weren't going to open, we would not have taken reservations for a pool party.
Okay. For 10 years, we held a party here on the opening week of the pool in honor of my grandmother. And I started getting in touch with Parks and Rec 2 months ahead of time. And I would see people sitting there working as I'd pass by. That didn't happen this year. I wouldn't see vehicles there. So you're telling me that y'all are doing this, provide the work orders, please.
I'll be glad to visit with you when we're done, and we'll get you whatever you would like to have.
No, make it available to the public.
Colby and his team were out there working. Remember, that tank that failed is completely enclosed inside a room with a concrete lid on it. So you may see some of the trucks, but you're not going to see the people. But they'll have all of that. We'll work on getting it to you.
No, give it to the public.
I'll be glad to get it to you.
I already know that it's a done deal.
No, it's
In
not a
my
done
heart,
deal,
it's a
Rudy.
done deal.
It's not.
But I'm telling you, if you get money,
be positive. We're trying to figure it out. I
but
promise
where's
you.
the maintenance gonna be?
And you know what? And just let me tell you about the parks employees. They work very, very hard.
I know they do.
And
I know
so
a lot of them.
You're discrediting an important group of people that a lot of them live in our district. So
No, I'm not. No, I'm not. Don't go there, Christy. I'm not doing that. They take orders.
I know.
Okay,
I know.
I'm not doing that.
And we'll make it public.
They take orders.
I know it's we're all disappointed, but we're not finished. It's not a done deal. And I ask you to, as soon as we get done, please meet with Colby and Jarrett, and we're gonna get answers to your questions. And the other part is, one of the things that I'd like to do is to form a small committee, and I'd like for you to be a part of that. Okay? Because I know, the connection of your grandmother, that's meant a lot to this pool. And every year you did the party in honor of her.
We did the party.
That's right.
We did.
We did.
All of us did.
All of us.
All of us. I'd have 50, 70 volunteers.
I know. That's why I'm glad that you're here.
2,000, 2,500 kids coming.
And I appreciate it.
In one day, in one 4-hour period for
Yep,
free.
every year. Thank you, Rudy.
Thank you.
So, folks, as you can see, we're not finished. I think Jared is committed to helping us to figure this out, right, Jared? So, don't give up on this. I know that in the past we've had some disappointments. Don't give up. And I want, something that I keep stressing to our district, we've got to email concerns, questions, so that we know how you're feeling. We haven't had a lot of people to address this issue. And I think it's important for us to do that so that people will see that we are as well committed. So I just want to take a quick minute. If there's no other question, what I'm going to ask you to do, just because of time, if you want to ask any of the departments, please go and visit with them. Get to know them. They really are here for you. But before we do that, Chief, thank you, Chief Fogerson over here. Thank you. And he's with the public information. Don't forget, I did not forget the police department. I wanted to ask them, they're hiding back there, but I wanted to ask them to come up because, these are our first responders. Public safety is so important. Chief, please feel free to come over here as well. But next month in September is Police Officer Appreciation Month. So will you give it up for these guys? Chief Neil Barron. And Nathan White, and you've probably spoken with them. And then, of course, Chief Fogerson over here. And they both have programs as well that can help our kids to get involved. And do you want to talk about your fire program that you do, the junior program?
The high school?
Yes.
Good evening. Lubbock Fire Rescue, in conjunction with LISD, has a high school fire academy for seniors, graduating seniors that are going to graduate next year. You can go to this fire academy, and when you graduate, you'll be a certified firefighter that can get a job basically anywhere in the state of Texas. So we're very proud of it. We've worked really hard, and we're seeing good results.
Yes, thank you, Chief.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. And Chief Barron or Nathan, y'all also want to talk, y'all have something similar too.
Yes, ma'am.
Nathan.
Yeah, so we have something very similar. It's called the Police Explorer Program, and it's up and running. It's stronger than it's been in years. We have an open house that September 1st at 6 p.m. at the police department. So it's for anybody that's, I think, 12 years old to 21. And we're looking at all kinds of options to keep the kiddos interested in policing. Even as they graduate high school, there'll be opportunities for them. So if you know anybody that'd be interested in that, tell them to come to the police department September 1st, and we'd be happy to talk to them about it.
Plus they volunteer.
Yes, they do volunteer. They do a lot of volunteer work. It's really
Thank
good.
you.
Mhm.
And then Assistant Chief Neil Barron, who, if you haven't met Neil, please take the time to do so, Chief.
I don't know about that. Thank you for coming out tonight. I enjoyed listening to everybody's comments, and it's a strong feeling in the room. So from a police perspective, we want to do everything that we can to support safety in the community, whether it's at a pool or a splash pad. We want to be seen and be present and be a part of whatever's going on. So thank you for coming out. It
has really been a pleasure to meet with everyone. And, I appreciate that you've dedicated this time today. And this is, I hope it's not the last time. We need to make sure that we continue to do things like this. If you have questions, first of all, let me give you my email address, please. And it's christymartinez@mylubbock.us. Very simple. Put your concerns, email me. If you want to schedule a meeting, like we said, Matt, where's Matt? Around here, back out there. There he is, that's Matt, and we'll schedule an appointment. And then the other thing is, if you haven't already, please download the My Lubbock app. It's a great tool, and you get immediate results, or, for the most part. But they are timely, and, I think the whole message of today is we've got to be proactive, not reactive. We can't keep waiting for things to happen to us. And, if you want to be the change in the world, that you see in the world, you've got to step up. So again, if you are not sitting on a board, Courtney is ready to get you on a board, and she can help you with that process. If you want to become a police officer, if you want to do a cleanup, we've got all these folks here ready to meet with you. So please keep in mind everything that we've discussed. I'm going to be available as well. I want to thank you again for your time. I do want to also remind you that we still do have COVID issues, and we're still doing vaccines, right, Catherine? So if you want to take the time, they're doing vaccines still for kids. And, thank you again to our city manager. He really is working, and he really is committed. Will you give a round of applause to our city manager? Thank you. Once again, thank you to all the PIO staff. Thank you all for being here. Please be safe, and God bless you all. Thank you.